Okay. We're seeing it saying going live. Okay. Cool. Right. So welcome to the New Fire Festival Virtual Eco-Symposium, the very first one that New Fire is offering. And it has been a pleasure working on this venture. I want to definitely thank Christine Alvarez, Alain, for setting up the platform for us. I want to thank Candace Alvarez for doing our social media. And I want to thank Denisa Williams for pulling together all of the panelists. And thank you to Elize and Jerry for giving us the opportunity to work on this venture. So, New Fire Festival Virtual Eco-Symposium. As I said before, 2 days of eco-awesomeness. We're bringing together activists, artivists, conservationists, everybody who has a vested interest in our planet. And we are kicking it off with panel number 1 of 5 over the next 2 days with Dr. Sharda Mahabir and Elize Rostant. I'm going to read a little bit about them, probably cut down the bios because they have done so many things, but I think it's important that we celebrate the championing that they have done over the past few years. So Dr. Sharda Mahabir has a PhD in environmental biology from the University of the West Indies. She was part of a 5-person team which completed the first ecological assessment of rivers across Trinidad and Tobago. Her work represents the first national survey for metals in water and sediment of rivers in the country and showed that human activities were the major source of these contaminants. In 2015, she developed a program called Adopt a River for the local water authority. This program brought together civil society and government agencies to develop and implement projects to improve the poor status of rivers locally. Under her stewardship, the program completed 35 cleanup exercises, 40 recycling projects, 3 tree planting exercises, and developed 12 water supply projects reaching 5,000 persons. Sharda represented the program and won 2 awards, Most Outstanding Project 2015 from AmCham TT, and 3rd place in the IDB's President Award for Excellence Innovation in the Public Sector 2019. Sharda has also lectured part-time with the Department of Life Sciences, University of the West Indies, sharing her knowledge on pollution, monitoring, and assessment with the next generation. She is currently the National Coordinator for the Global Environment Facility GEF Small Grants Program. Welcome, Sharda.
Thank you. Great to be here. I hope everybody could hear me.
Okay, and now we have the wonderful Elize Rostant. Let me pull up Elize's bio. That's not right. Elize Rostant is a creative professional with a background in design, management, and arts administration. As the festival director of New Fire Festival and the former lead of the National Registry of Artists and Cultural Workers in Trinidad and Tobago. Her collaborative approach has led to her successful management of public, private, and civil sector teams in the Caribbean, Canada, and the United States. She has also worked on transnational projects in the creative and cultural industries with partners from around the world. Over the past several years, Elize has delved more deeply into sustainable development initiatives in the Caribbean, integrating ecotourism, the arts, and regenerative environmental practices as a means of achieving positive cultural transformation in our region. Elize is currently the program manager of the Walker's Institute of Regenerative Research, Education, and Design, WIRRED, in Barbados. She strives to be a catalyst for positivity by applying her skills and talents to building communities nationally, regionally, and internationally. Round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Very happy
my
to be here.
honor.
Having survived the week of Ashfall.
I know.
Yeah,
I think that the planet is tired of us.
In St. Vincent, so in all things we have to be grateful for life and supporting our brothers and sisters across the region. So
sending all that positive energy. Thank you. I'm thankful that there has been no loss of life so far, but there has been loss of livelihoods and all of that. So I mean that, and it's going to take a while for them to recover. And I know that we are all committed to helping in our way, however large or small.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why these conversations are so important, you know, because we can't forget the impact that we are having on the environment, and then the resiliency that we have to build up, you know, as a region that has so many threats to just our lives and livelihoods. So, yeah.
And I think that Earth is kind of tired of us as well. She is just saying, guys, get it together.
Exactly.
Get it together. Great. So my name is Kevon Foderingham, and I am the founder of Eastyard and the executive director and founder of CFAFF for Common Good, which is an arts enterprise non-profit that focuses on arts promotion and arts education, as well as global cultural exchange. So let's get right into it. So the name of this entire symposium is Thinking Globally, Acting Locally. Yeah? The phrase thinking globally, acting locally has been used in various contexts, including planning, environment, education, mathematics, and business. For many environmental activists, the phrase has been changed into acting globally, acting locally, due to the growing concern for the whole planet, and thus the need of activism everywhere in the world. So Sharda, I'm taking it right over to you. What does the term thinking globally, acting locally mean to you personally?
Okay, so thinking globally, acting locally is about urging people to consider the health of the entire planet and to take action in their communities and their spaces towards achieving this increased planetary health. So let's take the climate change, for example. Climate change is a global issue affecting countries all across the world, and it's caused by actions in each country, which collectively, you know, the contribution of each country is what has caused this issue across the entire globe. So Trinidad and Tobago is the second largest per capita producer of carbon emissions. And I say that because we have to put it into context that even though we are a very small country and we don't really, as we go about our daily activities, remember or realize, but we are actually contributing to the global problem of climate change on an everyday basis. From putting on a light switch and leaving it on for the whole day to driving our cars to go somewhere, we are contributing to that problem. So in other words, what we have to do is we have to create strategies to address climate change, but at different levels. So at the country level, for example, the government will look at improving, public transportation systems. And I mean, they were throwing out the idea of setting up trains and subways recently or within the past 5 years, right? This requires a lot of money and a lot of public consultation, which takes a lot of time. I mean, 5 years is ongoing. Discussions are still ongoing, and we haven't actually had a train put down as yet. But whilst this process is ongoing, and we're looking at, you know, at a larger scale, we're looking at solutions. There are solutions that we could implement at the community level that require little funding. And some of the examples could be, for example, if we carpool with a neighbor to go down the road by the supermarket, or if we make walking or biking zones in our communities, if we plant a tree in our yard, or we use climate smart technologies such as solar lights or solar cell phone chargers to reduce our carbon emissions. So thinking globally, acting locally is about breaking up the big global problems that we have into tinier pieces and developing projects that we can implement at a personal level, community level, in order to bring about positive impact or reduce those environmental impacts, and therefore, you know, implement something that would help solve the bigger problem.
The bigger problems, yeah.
Yes, and we have to remember that I gave the example of climate change, but climate change is not the only global problem. There's plastic pollution as a global problem. Marine pollution and its impact on our fisheries is a major problem. Land degradation is a major problem. And, you know, people take for granted that land degradation in one country could affect the other. But look at what is happening with Trinidad and Tobago right now. The amount of Sahara dust that we get because of the changing land space or land dynamics in Africa is it directly affecting the health of Trinidadians at this point in time, right? So when we talk about acting globally, thinking globally, acting locally, We want to consider how we as individuals and as communities and as NGOs that represent our communities, how can we implement solutions to all of these environmental issues, you know, within the shortest possible time and within the simplest of efforts. It could be something like a behavioral change, you know, like taking off the light bulb when you leave the room, right?
Little things, yeah.
Right. The most important thing about thinking globally, acting locally, is that we have to remember, and that's that phrase, that it recognizes the most important ingredient in solving the global issue is people and communities, because we're talking about acting locally, right? So in other words, the phrase itself recognizes people and communities as the most important drivers for the solution of global issues, not governments, not public sector, not private sector, right? And so the idea that NGOs or communities or even people have to sit there and we are waiting for WASA to fix this, or we're waiting for the government to do that, that idea has to stop. We have to start taking responsibility now for the spaces that we exist in, right? And the most important aspect, and this is why the theme of this particular Eco-Symposium is you know, has a theme of thinking globally, acting locally. The most important reason is that when we use themes like this, we acknowledge the people who are doing the work towards achieving our global goals. So this is our opportunity, this Eco-Symposium, this theme is our opportunity to acknowledge our NGOs, the country's eco-warriors. The NGOs are our country's eco-warriors. We want to acknowledge their work. We want to recognize their work publicly and say thank you for the work that you're doing. Because if it wasn't for your little work, you know, we would be in a worse place than we are right now. So that is basically where the idea, what thinking globally, acting locally means, but also what it means, to why it is we chose it as a theme for this symposium.
Okay, well, I mean, and definitely I echo thanking all of the NGOs that, you know, make the puzzle bigger, because we are not working in silos. And also I appreciate the fact that you spoke about putting people at the center of work, because a lot of times in the NGO world, we look at the big problem and we sort of, you know, exclude the people, when really we need to work together with the people, because we are really serving them. We're really serving the people and working together with the people. And
Yes.
I want to thank you for working together with all of these NGOs, because you are a major part of the glue that keeps the puzzle together. So can you tell us about the work that the Jeff Small Grants Program has been doing for the past few years under your stewardship?
Okay, sure. So Jeff SGP has supported, well, we have been in the country for 25 years, and we've supported 138 projects and 92 NGOs across the country. Specifically, the project has impacted, well, I'm talking about, if we look at statistics for 2019-2020, the project has impacted positively on 5,458 persons, rehabilitated 31 acres of land, diverted 1.985 or almost 2 tons of waste from the landfill, and replaced over 20,000 plastic items with eco-friendly products, right? And let me just go through quickly. Jeff SGP funds projects under 5 focal areas: biodiversity, climate change, chemicals and waste. But we also focus on capacity development, gender and social inclusion, and of course the development of CSO, government, private sector dialogues and partnerships, right? And 2 other important focal areas is land degradation and water. So I'll just give me a couple of minutes. Let me just quickly
take your time. Take your time.
Summarize some of the NGOs and the activities that have been ongoing, right? So under biodiversity, that 35 acres of land that have been, you know, really is under better management was due to the work of I Am Movement and Trust for Sustainable Livelihood. And specifically that project looked at 2.5 hectares, which is about 6 acres. And what they were able to do was bring quarried land, which is bare land that has no nutrients, nothing, bring that quarried land up to the level of being able to produce food for communities. And that's a very impressive project. Another important project was a rehabilitation of 25 acres of land in Grand Couva, especially looking at soil stabilization, reforestation by an organization called SAMCAD, which is the Santa Maria Cocoa Development Association. But under areas of biodiversity, we don't only fund like the core aspect of rehabilitation, but also the policy. We support the policy and the environment, enabling environment, in order to be able to bring about change and change in practice, but also in behavior. And an important project this year was the project completed by Eric in Charlottesville and Tobago, where they were able to map Northeast Tobago, highlighting the major features and key environmental impacts. And that data was very, very important because it was used in the application for the designation of Man on the Biosphere under UNESCO. And of course, they succeeded in being able to get that designation for Northeast Tobago, which is a humongous accomplishment. On the area of climate change, we've supported, for example, the use of climate smart agricultural project. And one that stands out, and we will hear a lot about hopefully over the next 2 days, is Habitat for Humanity's construction of the first solar, water, and wind harvesting greenhouse, which is now located in Cashew Gardens. Now, that's an important project because you're basically showing communities that they are able to produce a lot of food without having the overhead of too much labor, but also the overhead of electricity and water management. Water is a big issue with respect to consistent agriculture in our country. So this is an excellent example of how we could solve that problem, right? In terms of chemicals and waste, over 5,000 persons participated in 22 beach cleanups and diverted 2 tons of recyclable material away from the landfills to be recycled. And over 20,000 plastic items were replaced with eco-friendly products, and over 250 liters of harsh chemicals were substituted in Castara by the Castara Tourism Development Association's project, where they actually replaced, they just went green. They wanted to become a green community. They replaced all of their styrofoam and plastic containers with eco-friendly containers and replaced all of their harsh detergents with eco-friendly alternatives, right? Other examples that come to mind, for example, underwater, we've seen youth testing for water quality in Cashew Gardens and Siparia, which is an important aspect. It's bringing people back to the importance of our rivers and our water supply. You see, many a times when we turn on a tap, we don't realize that when we turn that tap on, we are actually emptying a river. But also when we dispose of our waste, when we don't properly dispose of our bottles in environments, or you're walking on the road and you just let the bottle fall on the ground, or you leave your garbage outside and it's not properly packaged or whatnot, or secured, and rain falls and your garbage ends up in the rivers. We don't seem to understand the impact of that. And this whole project and the idea, and it happened in both communities, where we brought youths directly in contact with the water again. And when they saw the quality of the water, they wanted to do more. And it was actually the impetus of the community in Cashew Gardens developing the country's first community-based recycling project, in the country. So these are some of the projects that we have definitely supported. Oh, there's one other category, that's chemicals and waste. And, under chemicals and waste, there are 2 important elements that we've been supporting. That is projects that deal with plastic as a waste product, as well as organic content, like your peelings, your compostables. All right, and we've submitted, we've actually supported 3 projects in this area. So Flying Tree Environmental Management, who you will hear from, they will be opening up 2 miniaturized plastic processing facilities where my community members will now be taught how to grind and sequester plastics in concrete products. The whole idea is that plastics currently, when they end up in the landfills or in the environment, they break down into smaller particles and either contribute to pollution on the land or to groundwater or to surface water, but also in the sea. So if we were to collect that plastic, many of these plastics are dirty, right? They've got dirt on it, they've got oil on it or whatever, so they can't be recycled. So the best way to process them is to put them in a way or in a form where they cannot actually be exposed to the environment again. And this is what Flying Tree is doing. Flying Tree is actually grinding the plastics and sequestering them in concrete products. These gigantic, heavy, over 1 ton in weight. They're making these concrete benches that can withstand, the rain, etc., so that the plastic will be sequestered in that product ad infinitum. At least that's what they're hoping for, at least for another 50, 60, 70, 80 years. They really want to be sure that plastic does not re-enter the environment. Another project is that the University of the West Indies will be converting plastic bottles, like these are drinking water bottles, into a filament that can now be converted into any product using a 3D printer. But more importantly, they are engaging persons with disabilities to take that filament and make new products, whether it be jewelry, whether they use it to weave a handbag, or so on and so forth. And so by doing this, they're not only solving the problem of plastics, but they're also empowering persons with disabilities and creating a market and a product that would help sustainably strengthen the organizations that deal with persons with disabilities. So that is definitely an important project. And the last projects that we have supported in composting are cashew gardens. Cashew Gardens started the first plastic recycling project or community-based plastic recycling project on their own in 2015. They have now, as of 2020, implemented the country's first community-based composting project. So they've actually distributed buckets to members of the community, and these persons are returning the compostables, and that compostable is now being made into a product that is either going into the community's garden or being sold to the community back at a reduced cost, because it was their stuff that ended up being the compost in the first place, thereby creating a sort of sustainable business model at the end of the day. So these are some of the projects that we have actually supported, and a lot of the models that we are looking for to fund going forth have that level of not just addressing a pollution issue or environmental issue, but also a certain level of sustainability. We want to be able to see that, in 10 years' time, when you plant a tree, as long as that tree is maintained properly, that tree will continue to sequester carbon. So therefore, it's a sustainable answer to a climate issue. When we, for example, compost waste compostables, and we convert it to a product like mulch, then that mulch can be sold and becomes a sustainable source of income for communities as well. So the whole idea is that we want to be able to bring sustainable solutions to our environmental, local and international environmental issues, and by so doing, we want to be able to realize the SDGs, which now govern much of the work that many of the countries are implementing. Most of our countries have to work towards the accomplishment of SDGs, and a lot of the work that we do focuses on the thinking globally, local acting SDG work, and that is where we're focusing on. My last bit, just to end, is that much of this data is actually summarized in our annual report, and the annual report is completed. We just have, I'm just waiting to close up with the messages from our key stakeholders. And as long as I get that, I will release the annual report. But, you know, the beauty of the report is that for each organization, we highlight the power of their work, the impact and the benefits of their work. And that's what JFSGTP is about. We want to be able to support our support NGOs on a local level, but we want to be able to support also communication. We want to be able to support social inclusion, gender, and the realization and greater understanding of the importance of gender and social inclusion in project development, etc. So that's some of the kind of things that we've been working on.
Wow, thank you, Sharda. I liked that you mentioned the work that has been going on with persons with disabilities and differently abled persons, because we have Chandel O'Neill, who here in the chat, she was asking about that. So I'm glad to see that the work is so all inclusive. Yeah. Elize, let's bring you into the conversation. So as New Fire Festival, Trinidad and Tobago Bridge Initiative, as one of the grantees of Jeff's work, definitely I'm looking at the sustainable solutions as one, but also innovative solutions, because I think the essence of New Fire Festival is innovation, is using the arts, is using creativity to bring people together to tell that story. So can you tell us about New Fire Festival, its origins, and some of the highlights?
And thanks so much for all that context, Sharda. And, you know, I mean, the partnership of the UNDP through the Jeff Small Grants program has been invaluable to us over the last 2 years. So, you know, we're really happy to see things coming to fruition, as much as we had to take a detour due to COVID and everything else last year. But, you know, it just shows that, you know, we are resilient people. And whilst we had to take a step back to, you know, reprioritize, the work needs to continue. So I'm very, very happy that the team has been able to come together to put this symposium on this weekend. So about New Fire Festival, the first edition of the festival was held in 2016. And we really felt, you know, as TTBI, as a nonprofit organization, that's the parent organization of the festival, that we needed to create a space for people to connect with nature, themselves, each other. But we also have this bigger vision of enabling transformation throughout the region through positive behavior change, educating people about what sustainable living is, what regenerative practices are, and what that means for how we behave on a day-to-day basis as human beings, how we interact with the environment, our environmental awareness, ecological mindfulness, and then, of course, how we bring the socioeconomic factors into the table. Because, you know, we can talk about be championing for the environment all we want, but if people are not healthy, if people are not well, if people are not taken care of, then we're missing, you know, key pieces of the puzzle. So the first edition of the festival was held in 2016. You know, we had 700 people attend the festival, which we thought was, you know, amazing, because we were going into meetings and talking about this zero waste transformational festival and getting lots of strange looks. But we persevered and held our first 2-day festival in Freeport. And over the years, I mean, we've been very, very proud through lots of hard work, to the support of amazing partners, to the collaboration of several different groups, you know, across various sectors, and of course our volunteers. You know, we've had amazing people work with us over the years of the festival. We were able to grow in audience size by 260% almost, where in 2019 we saw 2,500 people attend the festival. So over 4 editions, you know, we really saw the building up of momentum in Trinidad and Tobago specifically behind this quote unquote green movement, you know, which, you know, we are very proud to say we shone a light on, particularly when it came to large scale zero waste events, and then all the various elements that come together to create what New Fire Festival is. So that just kind of gives a bit of a background, you know. We bring together lots of different ingredients for the whole festival experience. I mean, at the heart of it is really looking at waste, our patterns of consumption, and we've really been leading the charge with that. How do we live more sustainable lifestyles, particularly when it comes to disposables and what we're doing with the things that we do use, whether it be upcycling, whether it be repurposing, and how those can be created into, you know, value-added products that can then be sold or used for the long term. But we have other things like, you know, the artisan market, which was creating, you know, a space for our local artisans to really generate revenue through selling their own products, but also building an audience. I mean, there was a story where somebody came to the festival, brought a cousin who lives in the States. They met, you know, a soap maker, and that person has been ordering soaps from the soap maker over the last 2 years, you know, because she fell in love with the product and wanted to share it with friends and family. And that's just one story. So I think for me, what has really kept me going through all the challenges and, you know, this journey that we didn't know where it would take us, has been the stories coming out from the people who have interacted with us and been a part of the festival and who've traveled this journey, this road with us. So that really has been, I think, the most rewarding part of doing this work through the festival. And it's definitely something that we want to continue, whether it be through the festival or through, you know, another avenue at TTBI.
Thank you so much, Elize. And as one of the persons who has journeyed since day one of the festival as well, alongside the team, I want to say kudos, definitely kudos. With anything that is innovative, with anything that is new, with anything that is the first time, there comes challenges. So for the persons who are not so familiar with New Fire Festival, but also people who want to jump into something new, can you share some of the challenges and how you've overcome them with the festival?
Yeah, so I mean, the scale of what we were and are trying to do is quite large. So I think that was the first thing. You know, Jerry, as the founder of the festival, is a big picture thinker and had a big vision for what this could be. And I think entering the space with something, like you're saying, so new and so different, it was really a lesson for us in trying to take that big vision and figure out how strategically we could present it to an audience that wasn't necessarily open or ready for something like this. So a lot of audience development had to happen. So I think anybody who's interested in doing something new, I mean, obviously do your research. I think for us, what really, really helped, you know, make things become a reality were our partnerships and collaborations. I can't talk about that enough, because having an idea is one thing. And I mean, where my skill set lies is project management and being able to take that big idea, you know, break it up and see how it's going to be implemented. But the implementation of the thing can't be done without a community of people. And I'm really, really grateful that over the years we've built up, you know, such a fantastic community that has transformed, that has evolved, like with anything else that is living. But I think, you know, that exchange of value where we presented this space, this opportunity for people to develop skills and to interact and to connect. And there have been so many stories of people working on projects outside of New Fire Festival because they met through this initiative. And then the value that we obviously have gotten from those interactions where people have said, I believe in what you're doing. I want to be a part of this. Let's make this happen. So building a community is key. Doing your research and understanding where those communities may be. Because, you know, Sharda would be able to say, I mean, we have hundreds, if not thousands of NGOs in Trinidad and Tobago alone. And many people are doing similar things, you know, or things that are aligned. And I think very often we're not going out there and trying to connect and see who else may be working in our sphere or working in a complementary sphere. So I think, you know, once you're starting something, think about, is somebody else already doing this? Can I partner with somebody? Can I collaborate? Because several years ago, I started using the phrase collaboration as a new currency. We didn't start off with any big set of resources, $0, you know, having to put personal savings into getting the festival done. You know, over the years, as the festival grew, we were very thankful that that attracted partners. But a lot of what has created New Fire Festival has been sweat, blood, and tears. You know, and with all those partnerships, with all the volunteers, with all people putting their energy behind what they believed in, you know, as this movement, New Fire Festival wouldn't exist. So I think for any new venture, be very clear on your vision, understand that, you know, you have to mobilize resources to implement that vision, and look at the community of people that you can plug into to assist you with that implementation.
Okay, awesome. Well, as you mentioned, the NGOs, I think there are over 3,000 registered NGOs in Trinidad, and that's registered, because there are a lot of groups who are doing work who haven't formed a formal entity. But you spoke about exchange of value, and I want to bring Sharda in here to talk about a little bit about exchange of value. So how has the partnership with TTBI New Fire Festival brought value, Sharda? How has your experience been working with this entity? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. So first of all, personally, I think working with TTBI has been fantastic. So let me be clear, and this is what I've been trying to get TTBI to really market as well. New Fire is considered by everybody to be this entity that runs a festival. No, the actual brainchild behind the New Fire Festival is the Trinidad and Tobago Bridge Initiative. And so, first of all, my experience with working with them has been fantastic. And from a GFSGP perspective, we are very impressed by their ability to have adapted, as well as their ability to work on their own. That has been very, very impressive so far. So TTBI as an organization, they came to GFSGP for support in the end, for support for the New Fire Festival. And my immediate response to them was, yes, the festival itself is fantastic. It's an excellent opportunity, but it has to be made sustainable, right? The idea of coming every year and asking different people for funding, you know, is not a sustainable entity. That's not sustainable for you. That is not sustainable for you as a person who's working within the festival, but it's also not sustainable in terms of the organization itself, right? TTBI. So I asked them to look at a different model, and that's how they came up with the idea of being able to do these workshops. So now TTBI has been able to develop a product that it can now sell, which is, let us be the entity that could facilitate these workshops in order to be able to, you know, develop you. So we want TTBI to now become one of those avenues for capacity development and mentoring for NGOs wishing to do environmental work. Okay. The other thing that we were very interested in is something that Elize mentioned before, and I wrote it down. I had to write it down. Collaboration is the new currency. That is such a poignant and a beautiful statement. It captures everything I think that the NGO sector needs to understand. And so at the end of the day, I think a lot of the NGOs still require to have that collaboration, but more importantly, have an entity that facilitates that collaboration. Because on its own, NGOs themselves are too busy with their own work to be able to say, okay, well, let me spend time developing a relationship with X, or let me do, you know, Y or Z. At the end of the day, somebody from the outside has to do that. And so TTBI as an organization, what I would like to see for them is that the organization builds that strength and becomes the center for environmental NGOs, especially those in the creative art sector, as well as those that are in core environment. I want to see a sort of marriage of those concepts. Let's marry environment with arts and action through TTBI. And that marriage could be through collaborations like this, you know, let's talk, let's have sessions, you know, COVID, and I'm going to come back again to my original point. TTBI and New Fire Festival has adapted so well under the COVID situation, you know, when COVID hit March of last year, and the festival was supposed to happen in April. And when it was that, you know, there was this lockdown and you couldn't do anything, you know, TTBI sort of, okay, let's brainstorm. What can we do? All right, we'll try to do it when the lockdown, you know, when we open back. We tried to do it when they opened back, they locked down again. So now, you know, it was all adapted, and Elize is all there, like elastic or plasticine, you know, adapting and molding, you know, and changing as it goes, which was very impressive. TTBI was definitely impressive with that. So the whole idea is that I want NGOs to learn that flexibility, that plasticity, right, as well. I think that's important, because you have to be able to, you know, move with whatever the times provide to you. And this is the kind of thing that I would like to see. But most importantly, that TTBI becomes the bank that sort of manages the collaboration that is the new currency, right? That's what I basically want to see. And I want to see the festival become an ongoing thing, online or in person. It becomes, I want the festival to continue to develop, but develop as that opportunity for the NGOs to come together to say, all right, what can we do together, right? And I think that is where the strength would really come from, you know, going forward and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. So that leads me to my final question, really, and that's for Elize. What is the future for New Fire Festival, and what do you think is the future of festivals in a post-pandemic world?
All right, well, let me take the second part of the question first, and then respond to the first part. So, you know, as Sharda said, and I'm glad that she had such amazing things to say, because at some points over the last year, you know, there were really, really dark moments. And I think, as we were discussing before we started this morning, we can't discount the fact that globally, we're all collectively going through a traumatic experience. And then layered on top of that, individually, people are dealing with things. So I think the energy that, you know, has been circulating around the globe over the last year and some months, and now volcanic eruptions, and, you know, there was a snowstorm, and, you know, there's a lot to work through. And I think the idea of people being able to connect and support each other is something that we have to hold on to and find ways to enact, whether it be in a physical sense or virtual sense. Now, I will say that I am biased to the magic that comes when people are able to physically come together. I don't think that is something that can necessarily be replicated or translated in its fullest form across these digital interfaces. And for me, you know, just having moved countries within a pandemic, I mean, yes, I'm still in the Caribbean, thankfully, but I've definitely felt, you know, that distancing from home. Even while I was at home, we were social distancing, you know. So I think that has to be said. I think it's fantastic for us to be able to use the technology. I mean, that is what has kept us, again, connected over the last year. But we do see that there are negatives to that. You have the screen fatigue, you have all these other things that are coming up. And being able to give somebody a hug, being able to, you know, see somebody in their fullest form by interacting with them physically is not something I think as human beings, and definitely as Caribbean people, we would ever want to see disappear. So the future of festivals, I think, I mean, when you look at the UK, they have said that, you know, from June, which I don't know how realistic that still is, but they are going to allow festivals, physical festivals, to go forward. So, I mean, we wait to see what the impact of that will be. But, you know, the coming together of human beings, I think, is something that will continue to happen, whether it be in a physical sense or in a virtual sense. Segueing into what that means for the future of New Fire Festival. New Fire as a concept, I mean, we can't let it die, and we have worked really hard over this year, and we will continue to work hard to keep on fanning the flames, to keep, the fire alive. What form that will take, as over the next year and over the next 3 to 5 years, I go back to the idea of collaboration. Being here in Barbados now and working for WIRRED, I have already, spoken to my team here about the potential of something happening here in fire related, and they are very open to it. And I mean, during the years, we had a lot of people, starting to come to the festival, reaching out to us online, from Europe, from South America, Central America, from other islands in the Caribbean, Barbados included, where they loved this idea of, okay, so we have carnivals, but this idea of an environmentally focused festival that had the education aspect, workshops and participatory events and activities, the focus on buy local and supporting our local artisans, and then of course the outdoor camping and the music and everything that comes together to make the Fire Festival what it is. So we had already, as you know, Kevon, we had already thought about how we could do quote unquote satellite festivals throughout the region, what that would look like, how we would need to partner with organizations and groups and entities in different islands, and when we could start doing that. We had started to think about that post the 5th edition of the festival. So now, again, the virtual space provides an opportunity for more of that exploration to happen. As vaccination campaigns roll out throughout the region, and we are able to meet in groups again, we will see what that looks like for Trinidad and Tobago and for potentially other spaces in the region. But I think, like Sharda said, one of our strengths has always been that ability to bring people together. And I think at least that will continue to happen, no matter what form the festival itself takes. As she said, we need to look at showcasing TTBI as an entity a bit more, because, through the funding of the UNDP, which again, we are so, so grateful for, we were able to officially launch the new FIRE Public Environmental Empowerment Program, where we started with our skill building workshops, mirroring what you would experience at the festival over the 3 days, but it was done in a very focused way, and the feedback from that was exceptional. So, now that people have to be adaptable, look at other revenue streams, other avenues of survival, really, how can we take the learnings that we have, gained over the years of doing the festival, the experience and expertise of the individual members of the team and of the community, and how can we, offer that to the wider community, wider interest? So those are some of the things that as a team, and as a board, we've been talking through at TTBI. Following this symposium, there is a document we are going to publish working with Sharda that will again continue to highlight some of the groups that have been funded by the Just for Grants program, lessons that those groups have learned in doing their work, so that other groups can take example, and hopefully it be useful to them in doing their own work and accessing funds to do their projects. Funds and resources, because sometimes what you don't need is money. You may need, the expertise of another organization or labor, etc. And then later on in the year, we're going to be doing a video series that will be broadcasting and again highlighting various NGOs, how they have weathered this COVID period, and what they're doing now coming out of the other side of that. So, I mean, COVID has been, because we're not out of the woods yet, it has been an extremely trying time, physically, mentally, emotionally. People have had to put down certain things and pick up other things again just to survive, to take care of their families, to take care of themselves. But we remain very, very grateful that, our partners have seen that we are pushing through, that it took a long time, but, we're here now. And we continue to look forward to be that catalyst of being able to bring people together, shine light on the environmental movement in Trinidad and Tobago and the region, and really, you know, offer up spaces for people to connect, people to collaborate.
Okay, so bringing people together, shining a light, and offering that space and opportunity, whether virtual or in person, for people to connect.
Yes.
I think that sums up New Fire, and it definitely sums up the work that TTBI is doing and the work that Sharda has challenged us to do as well as TTBI. But I want to thank all of the attendees. It's been really engaging. People are messaging, they want to get, they want to get involved. But also we are definitely going to be looking at when this symposium is over, all of the sessions are going to be recorded and they are going to be accessible to everyone who was not able to participate over the weekend. Yeah.
So Kevon, just very quickly, I thought maybe we could address two questions. One from Chandel and Elizabeth, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chandel raised the issue of working on accessibility and on other perpetuating problems of the vulnerable in our society. And I would like to say Jeff SGP does have projects like that. It's not just with persons with disabilities, but for example, we also look at communities, vulnerable communities, those that are prone to social issues. Like for example, we have a garden project or community garden project, and we just launched the Volunteer Center of Trinidad and Tobago, just launched a community garden in Chinapoo in Mova, right? And there's one in Gonzales already. We're looking to implement one in Sealots, which will bring benefit and an avenue for greater collaboration in the community through this community garden. So yes, we do look at vulnerable projects, and we do support a lot of vulnerable projects. Actually, during COVID, we worked with the UNDP directly to distribute over I think it's over 1,800 seed kits to youths across the entire Caribbean, so that they would be able in their spare time after they do their online classes or whatever to set up their own home gardens. So they keep busy, but also are able to produce food at the household level. For Elizabeth, your question about it wasn't a question, it was more of a comment that you love hearing about the recycling of the plastics, and this information needs to be spread widely. Yes, I agree. We've already started that process. So last year, Flying Tree did a presentation at CWWA. Flying Tree also has an article that's available off the UNDP website. But I agree with you. There needs to be a greater communication of our efforts, and we all need to, as NGOs, you all need to kind of big up everybody else's work. And that is what I'm trying to get at. I wanted that all of these NGOs are, supporting each other. And when one shares something, if it's on Facebook or Twitter, the old people scene or the new people scene, whatever it is, TikTok, whatever it is, that, we are able to share the work that's going on. And we're going to give kudos to everybody. We're supporting each other. I think that is also very, very important, because we put up posts on Facebook, Flying Trees, all of these NGOs are putting up posts, but we're not supporting each other. And that enabling environment that we need to create amongst NGOs is what is lacking. We need to stop competing. There is a perception amongst NGOs that they're competing against each other for limited resources. That needs to stop, because at the end of the day, let me put it to you, if I have to move a bed, it's taking 4 man or 6 man to move the bed, right? And in other words, that resource of the bed could now be moved by so many people. We could move things and get things done if we all work together. If I go to drag the bed by myself, it's problems, it'll take me a whole day to move it. So all of that to mean that, we need to start supporting each other a lot more. We need to, I think one of the things that I want to try to help to do is bring that conversation and start that conversation. So coming out of this, I've already started to think, maybe Jeff SGP should have this kind of discussion, maybe on a quarterly basis or maybe twice a year. Let's feel out our NGOs. Let's bring them to the table. Let them, vent their issues. Let's talk about how we could share with each other and support each other a lot more, so that we could build a sector that whenever there's an oil spill, 20 NGOs come together and say this is not acceptable, and the government and all of the other players will now have to listen. It isn't about, You know, isn't about, well, one little NGO say something and the other one go, well, yeah, and then, you know, nothing gets done. No, we want it to be a strong, unified voice in order that we are able to say we are a strong entity and a strong industry in the country. We are the NGO sector and we have a voice and we control certain things, and you all need to start listening to us. That's basically where we want to go. And that, and I agree with Chandel and Elizabeth, all of that, we're working towards it. You know, many of us sleepless nights and whatever, but we're going to doing it and we will get there. We just need your support. We need more people helping us on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sharda.
Thank you.
We're really
Thank
excited
you,
to be able to roll out, you know, the other parts of what's coming up over the next few months, because you're absolutely right. Communication is key. And, you know, through our networks, again, thankfully, the momentum that has been built up behind the festival, we definitely want to use that to shine a light on the work that these NGOs are doing and how they've weathered the storm of COVID and other things, you know, over the last few years. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Just want to comment on something. Liz Ross is asking if we're looking at the Q&A or should all questions be posted here. Yes, Liz, post all of the questions in the chat. Everyone post the questions in the chat so we can capture everything in the same space. And definitely, if you have questions that we can't address here, we will send them directly to the presenters over the next few days. Yeah. So thank you. This has been a real amazing way to kickstart 2 days, as I said, of eco-awesomeness. We ran a little over time, but that's good because it was good information. I want to invite everyone to visit the expo. So our expo is open right now. So have a look. We have art, we have film, and we have some offerings from IDB there. So visit. And in the meantime, say a few more minutes. Christina and I think about 5 more minutes, and then you will get the notification for when the stage goes live again for our second panel. So take the next 5 minutes or so and check out the expo.
I would just like to say, you know, again, talking about our partners, I mentioned them very generally. I mean, UNDP, Just Morgan's program, our lead partner for NFF 2020, and these, you know, follow-up activities. But we also have to say thank you to SWMCOL, who has been a fantastic supporter over the last few years. And they were also on board as a partner for New Fire Festival 2020. We also had the IDB, and we also had the Massy Foundation. So we've had many organizations who over the years have seen the work that we're doing, have contributed financially to this work. And then of course we have our larger pool of collaborators who have put their energies and, you know, provided resources in kind to the work that we're doing. So definitely just wanted to pick them up, you know, specifically. IDB is, as you said, in the expo, so definitely everyone, I encourage you to go check them out. And yeah, it's just a lot of gratitude because everybody was just so patient with us over the last year when we didn't know what was happening from day to day. And I think that's one of the things that has come out, that we have to be gentle with ourselves as people, you know, because over the last week, 11:45 in the day here in Barbados was looking like 6 p.m. at night, you know, so trying to do work when air quality is poor and groceries are shut and, you know, there's no water, you know, we have to really take time to reprioritize and understand that the work that we're doing is real work, but we also have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves to be able to continue.
Yeah. And one thing before I go, for the attendees, we have the networking sessions. So it's sort of a speed date networking vibe. So based on your profiles that you would have had to set up to be a participant, literally you can be matched with someone who hop-in things matches some of your interests and stuff like that. So you get the opportunity to actually meet persons who you may not have been able to meet before, who you don't know. So until we get ready for the next panel, you can take some time as well to literally network, do a speed networking. You never know who you might meet and what new fire that could create on its own. Yeah.
Nice.
So
thank you. Good one, Kevin. Good one.
I try. All right, ladies. So it was fantastic, and take care.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest
of the day. Take care. Enjoy the rest of it.